was your happiest memory?
Mm. Oh, it's kind of hard to think about a particular happiest memory. You know, some of the personal memories go back to things, something as simple as graduating from high school. Um, because I grew up at a time when many people didn't graduate from high school, not because it was necessarily difficult, but um, the era I grew up in the 60s and 70s, you had the Nation of Islam, you had the Black Panther movement, you had all of those kinds of movements, and it wasn't uncommon for um, riots, police conflict, all those kinds of things. The Vietnam War was going on. So a lot of people, our first goal, first I gotta live, okay? I don't wanna get killed, I don't wanna get shot in a fight, don't want any of that kind of stuff to happen. Then you gotta graduate and not end up in the war. So just graduating from school was just an exciting moment. College graduation wasn't exciting as high school. You know, once you got to college, all you had to do was do the work. I mean, if you read the book, ask questions, take the test, you'll pass the class. There were no struggles getting to and from class in college. In high school, this neighborhood was bad. That neighborhood wasn't safe. Coming home from the ball game, there might be a fight, there might be a riot, you may have to deal with the police. Those weren't issues in college. College, all you do is get up, go to class, read the book. You know, you eat in the dorm. You didn't have to, just safety wasn't an issue. So one of those memories then would have been just graduating from high school. Even though my mother graduated from high school in Mississippi, my dad did not. When he died in 1997, my dad could not read or write. You know, we would go out to dinner. We'd always read the menu out loud, like, "Oh, this number 7 looks good. I like fried shrimp." Well, that's a signal, so he doesn't have to say. He doesn't have to wonder, one, do they have fried shrimp? And he could just say, "I think I had that number 7 too." Now he was smart, because imagine having to hear a menu as people read bits and pieces of it and then understand it and remember it, and to live, I think he was 72 when he passed, to live that long without being able to read and write. You didn't poison yourself, you figured out what to eat and what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, how to drive, how to build stuff, all of those kinds of things. It was just significant to finish school and then know that I was the first one to go off to get a 4-year degree. And then my middle sister did the same. My older brother and sister went to, now you call them community colleges, then they were called junior colleges, so they went to junior college.
What was your saddest memory?
Oh, all the people who didn't get to finish, knowing full well a lot of my classmates, it was never a matter of how smart, everybody is equally smart, just opportunities to know that this person had to quit school and get a job at the post office, this person had to quit school and join the Army, or you find out somebody got killed in a car accident, or somebody got stabbed, somebody got shot, somebody had to leave school because a death in the family, a mom or dad. Those kinds of things were sad, because you sit around and say, "I know so-and-so, they didn't have, their grades weren't very good, but they were smart because they could answer questions for you that the teacher couldn't answer, or that you weren't going to ask the teacher, but for some reason they just never put the work in. And sometimes they just couldn't get to school, and sometimes you look around and say, everybody thinks so-and-so dumb and lazy, but their older sister may have a child, or the mother may say, you got to stay home and watch the baby while I go to work." And those kinds of things. So those kinds of memories always make you sad, because you wonder what would have happened if they had had some of the same opportunities.
What was your biggest accomplishment?
Hadn't happened yet, but I don't even know what it'll be. Everything I do, that's, you think that, well, the next thing ought to be bigger, and if not bigger in terms of how many people it affects, it ought to be more significant. It ought to, where maybe you touch 100 people and help them, maybe next time you don't reach 100, but you reach 50, but you help them even more, that kind of thing. So can't say yet. The second before I died, I'll be able to look back and say, okay, that was it.
What advice would you give to the people watching this video?
Oh, just work hard and take advantage of opportunities that present themselves. And when in doubt, pause. I mentioned some of my friends, in high school, somebody got killed. They were at a dance, fight breaks out. 3 people say, fight, run. Some of us had sense enough to know if the fight's that way, we're going to run that way. Other people, fight, run. They ran to see the fight. Nobody was shooting at them, but the bullet didn't know. And so, they get hit that way. So sometimes you have to think about, what should I do? When in doubt, pause, and so what's the safest thing? Because I can always find out who was fighting tomorrow. Somebody will tell me. Somebody will have run over there and risked their life. I'll be at home and they're not taking the same risk. So I would always tell people to work hard and do the best you can to stay out of trouble.
If you could go back and change anything, what would you change?
Ooh, everything. Because everything affects everything. I tend to think of changing, making a difference in the future, because when you go back, I always tell them at church, we always say, oh, the good old days, huh? What was so good about the old days? There was segregation, unemployment, all of the negative stuff. There's stuff people take a pill for now that was killing them 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. So the changes I would make by moving forward, going back, it's just difficult to think of what one thing would you change. Everything that was wrong, I would change to make it right. But then the same thing could be said today. There are a lot of things that aren't right that we still need to work on changing.
If you could change anything in the present day, what would you change?
And it's not to avoid the question, but almost the answer stays kind of the same. Everything that I think is wrong, I think it's wrong for children to go to bed hungry because there's plenty of food to go around. I think it's wrong for people to go to the hospital and the first question that they have to ask is, do you have insurance? If you have insurance, they're going to treat you wherever you go. If it's a hospital for profit and you don't have insurance, they're going to patch you up and send you someplace where they can treat you. I think those things are wrong. I think it's wrong when little kids miss school because it's cold and they don't have any shoes for the cold, or they don't have any gloves, or if you've ever seen little kids going through the lost and found at elementary school where in 2nd grade they've already learned to pretend that I lost my gloves, when in reality they don't have any gloves. As you go through the lost and found thinking, okay, whoever lost these, they didn't need them. If they did, they would have taken them home. So they go in, they find a pair of gloves and say, ooh, these are mine. The whole time risking somebody saying, no, those are mine, and then they're stuck. So they've already learned at that age. I think those kinds of things are sad. Or somebody has the grades and the desire to go to college, but they can't afford to go because even the public colleges like the University of Iowa, University of Northern Iowa, outstanding schools, and they're not expensive, but if you're broke, $1 is a lot. So if you don't have $10,000 and you can't afford to go, so those are some of the kinds of things that I would change.